Welcome to Late Night Spooks. We've got a thrilling tale for you tonight. This Valentine's Day, love turns into fear as we take you on a journey filled with mystery and terror. So get ready for a scary ride as we bring you a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The air was thick with the sweet fragrance of roses as Jane walked down the street. She clutched the bouquet tightly, the petals brushing against her skin. Today was her first Valentine's Day with her boyfriend, and she was determined to make it perfect. She arrived at the restaurant and was greeted by the maitre d', who led her to a candlelit table in the corner of the room. Her boyfriend was already there, a bouquet of red roses sitting in front of his plate. He smiled as she approached, and she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. They ordered dinner and spent the evening talking and laughing, the soft glow of the candlelight casting a romantic spell over them. But as the night went on, Jane began to feel a sense of unease. The restaurant was too quiet, the shadows too deep. As they were finishing their meal, Jane's boyfriend suddenly gasped and clutched his chest. She called for help, but it was too late. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. In the days that followed, Jane was consumed by grief. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right, that her boyfriend's death was more than just a tragic coincidence. She began to investigate, delving into the dark corners of the city and uncovering a web of deceit and horror. She soon realized that the bouquet of roses on her boyfriend's table was cursed, a symbol of death and destruction. The sweet fragrance of the flowers was a lure, drawing unsuspecting victims to their doom. And as she stood in the dark alleyway, surrounded by the broken petals of the cursed bouquet, she knew that she too was doomed. The darkness was closing in, and she was powerless to stop it. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes as the darkness claimed her. And as she fell into the eternal embrace of the night, she realized that this was not the Valentine's Day she had imagined. This was a day of horror and death, a day that would be forever etched in her memory. We hope you enjoyed our first Valentine's Day horror story, but we're not done yet. Get ready for another tale of terror as we delve into the dark and twisted mind of the Grim Reaper. Join us as we follow Sarah on a journey through the depths of fear and death. Valentine's Day had always been a special day for Sarah. She loved the flowers, the chocolates, and the candlelit dinners. She had always felt extra special on this day, knowing that someone cared enough to make her feel special. But this year was different. This year, she was spending the holiday alone after her boyfriend had broken up with her. She was heartbroken, and the emptiness of her apartment only made her feel worse. But she was determined to make the best of it. She lit a candle, put on some soft music, and settled in with a good book. She was trying to lose herself in the words, hoping that she could forget the pain of being alone on Valentine's Day. As she was reading, she heard a knock at the door. She was surprised, as she wasn't expecting anyone. She got up from her couch, walked over to the door, and opened it to find a delivery man holding a bouquet of red roses. She was even more surprised, as she hadn't ordered any flowers. But she took the bouquet and thanked the man, a smile spreading across her face. But as she looked closer at the roses, she realized that something was wrong. The petals were wilted and black, the fragrance rancid and bitter. And as she touched the roses, she felt a cold, dead hand wrap around her wrist. She tried to pull away, but the hand was too strong. She was dragged down into the darkness, her screams echoing through the empty halls. She found herself in a place that was not of this world. The sky was blood red, and the trees were twisted and gnarled. In the distance, she saw a figure draped in a black cloak, wielding a scythe. She realized that this was the Grim Reaper come to claim her soul. She tried to run, but her feet would not move. She was frozen, unable to escape the clutches of death. The Grim Reaper approached her, his scythe gleaming in the red light. He reached out a hand, offering her the bouquet of black roses. "These roses are a symbol of your love," he said in a voice that was both mournful and menacing. "A love that will never die, a love that will follow you into the afterlife." Sarah realized that the Grim Reaper was not there to harm her, but to offer her a glimpse of what was to come. He was offering her a final gift, a reminder of the love that she had once known. She took the roses from his hand, and as she did, she felt a weight lift from her heart. She understood that love was the one thing that transcended death, and that even in the afterlife, her love would live on. The Grim Reaper vanished, and Sarah was suddenly back in her apartment, the bouquet of roses still in her hand. She looked at the roses and understood that they were not just flowers, but a reminder of the love that she would always carry with her, even after death, and here the story ends. And now, let's take a step back into the realm of terror as we switch gears from the previous story to our next one. Get ready to experience another Valentine's Day gone wrong as we follow John on a journey into the heart of darkness. This tale of love and horror will leave you on the edge of your seat as we explore the twisted mind of a sadistic being who sees love as nothing more than a tool for control and manipulation. So grab your blankets and join us as we continue our journey through the Late Night Spooks. It was Valentine's Day and John was feeling down. He had been single for as long as he could remember, and the holiday only served to remind him of his loneliness. He decided to take a walk in the park to clear his head, but as he walked, he heard a soft, melodic voice calling his name. He followed the sound and soon came upon a beautiful woman sitting on a bench playing a harp. Her name was Leela, and she was the most gorgeous woman John had ever seen. She was dressed in a long, flowing red gown, and her hair was a mass of golden curls. She smiled at him, and he felt his heart skip a beat. They talked for hours, and John felt as though he had finally found his soulmate. He asked her out for dinner, and she agreed, her eyes shining with delight. They had a perfect Valentine's Day dinner filled with laughter, candlelight, and romance. John felt like he was walking on air, and he couldn't believe his luck. As the night came to an end, Leela leaned in for a kiss, and John felt his heart race. But as their lips touched, he felt a sharp pain, and he was plunged into darkness. When he woke up, he found himself in a dark, musty room. He was lying on a cold stone floor, and his hands were bound. He realized that Leela was not what she seemed, and that she had lured him into a trap. He struggled against his bindings, but they were too strong. He was trapped, with no way out. As he lay there, he heard a soft whisper in his ear. "I am the goddess of love," the voice said, "and I have chosen you as my latest sacrifice." John realized that he had fallen into the hands of a sadistic being who saw love as a game to be played with human lives. Days turned into weeks, and John was tormented and abused, his mind slowly breaking down. He lost track of time, and he felt as though he was living in a never-ending nightmare. And then, one day, Leela came to him, her eyes shining with a sinister light. "I have grown tired of you," she said, her voice cold and detached. "It is time for you to die." She raised a knife, and John closed his eyes, bracing himself for the end. But as the blade descended, he felt a sudden surge of strength, and he broke free of his bindings. He grabbed the knife and plunged it into Leela's heart. But as she died, her laughter echoed through the room, and John realized that he was never going to escape her grasp. He was doomed to spend the rest of his days in that dark, musty room, a prisoner of the goddess of love. Intro for switching from the first story to this one in a YouTube video. Welcome back to Late Night Spooks. We hope you enjoyed our previous Valentine's Day horror story, but the terror is far from over. Get ready for another tale of love gone wrong as we follow John on a journey through the dark side of love. Join us as we delve into the twisted mind of a sadistic being who sees love as a game to be played with human lives.